All right, Dustin, you rolling?
I gotta screw on this little tripod thing. Hold on. So I don't have to lean down.
Word. Yeah, I'm gonna raise mine up. You raise me up.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Stand on mountains.
Alright. I'm ready. You ready?
Yeah.
Alright, here we go. Hold on. Let's try that one more time.
All your bling is making it hard to
It is.
count. You don't have to flash your riches in front of me, Dustin, just to
My
impress
riches.
me.
My riches that I've had since high school.
And you don't have to flash in front of me the fact that you've been rich for a long time, also. You know. Just don't have to do that. It's not necessary, Dustin.
Okay, sorry. My bad.
Episode 119. The HooperCast.
The HooperCast.
Don't be so shallow. How's it going, everybody? It's the HooperCast. I'm Hooper. That's Dustin. We got a great show for you today. Wow. We got traffic, weather, and weather. And, as it happens, some Batman, Superman talk.
What?
Yeah, so I'm really worried about my recording because my laptop is not playing back sound. I'm just relying on the science of waveforms that I can see with my eyes right now, in hopes that I'm going to get some good sound. It's just nerve-wracking to not be able to check it at all.
Right.
So, yeah. Couple of things before we get started. So this podcast is brought to you in part by Letterboxd. For those of you who don't know, Letterboxd is a social network for film lovers that lets you track, rate, and review the films you watch, compare and view lists from other users on Letterboxd. It's like Facebook for movies, or movie lovers, and it's strictly about films, and it's really cool. We have one that we try to put the reviews of the podcast on, and a lot of you have Letterboxd as well, and it's really cool if you can get a pro account, and they got additional features up in there like a customized list of your past year's viewing, and they have an app also that they just got, so you don't have to just go to like the mobile site anymore. You got the little app. It's pretty sweet. But if you wanted to have that pro account, a 12-month upgrade or extension free of charge, you could email us at HooperCast@gmail.com and just give us a code word. What's the code word for April going to be, Dustin?
It should probably be
something related to this film.
Sure.
Turd, maybe.
That would be appropriate. Or shoot, Doomsday.
Doomsday. That's cool. All right. April's code word is going to be Doomsday. So email HooperCast@gmail.com with the subject line Doomsday and include your Letterboxd name in the email so we know who to pick to win. Because if you don't do that, we'll end up with situations like this month where we do not have a winner. I'm just going to go ahead and, because no one... Yeah. Screw you guys. No one emailed in. You don't get anything. Maybe Dustin and I will enjoy this free account. I don't know.
Maybe they all thought it was over.
No, dog.
Which is weird.
Still going. So
it's still going, y'all.
Yeah. It's in perpetuity. With continuity.
Perpetually.
2 suits, 2 tokens in hand.
I got no respect because I'm the new man.
Yeah, so anyway, letterboxd.com, letterboxd.com, or the app, hoopercast@gmail.com, Doomsday in the subject line for a free pro account upgrade or extension for 1 whole year. Okay, also wanted to update on the show itself. This is going to be, if you're listening to this, and it's still March, I guess, let's just say that, then this will be the last episode of the HooperCast you probably listened to on iTunes. We explained why in the last episode, why that is. So if you're really confused, go back and listen.
Yep.
Anyway, so start to look to the Twitter page and Facebook, I guess, but Twitter, I think most of you who follow us do it on Twitter. So just check the Twitter page for us to drop the YouTube link to the episodes, and that will be the first run theater for the HooperCast going forward. Also, with it being YouTube, Dustin and I are going to try and figure out if it's economical for us to try and bring you a video podcast. Probably occasionally at first. We couldn't do it tonight. But we want to, and we think it'd be fun, and we thought it'd be cool. And I'm really vain, so I like looking at myself anyway. So I feel like it's only fair that you people should look at me too. You know.
I disagree.
In what way?
Every way.
You don't think I'm vain?
Well, no, that part I agree with. It's everything else that I disagree with.
Dustin,
nobody needs to be subjected to your
my abs.
Your abs?
I don't know. See, people at home don't know this.
Are you planning on doing this video podcast in the nude?
I'm showing Dustin my abs right now.
No, he's not.
Like Mike Sorrentino.
He's in a t-shirt. He's at work.
I'm pouring water onto my t-shirt to show my abs.
He is lying to every one of you right now.
You can hear the water squirting out of my water bottle
into another cup. That's not what it would sound like if it was landing on his chest.
Oh, that's the sound of water on my chest.
His chest is not ceramic.
Where my abs are. My abs are on my chest. I have a condition.
I have an upside down torso.
My nipples are right above my waistline. My belly button's up near my neck.
Oh gosh, no.
My happy trail goes right up to like my throat.
Oh.
I can't. When I do crunchy, I don't know. I can't.
No, don't.
All right. Well, anyway.
I don't even want to know how your intestines work.
Somebody needs to draw that.
No.
Well, I poop out of my face.
There's like 8 million jokes I can make right now about that.
Yeah. I just can't get the visual out of my head. I'm just. All right. Anyway. All right. So look forward to a video podcast possibly in the future. Yeah. We've done one before. We've done maybe one or two before, and they were fun.
Yeah,
they were just short.
one, yeah.
So we got to figure out if we can do that long form, because we kind of like doing these things relatively long form.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Take our time with it.
Yeah. Kind of like now. We're about 7-8 minutes in already.
We still haven't talked about anything.
There we go. All right. Well, we're going to talk now about Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. Dustin, fancy pants rich guy for several years over here.
What?
Dustin, with your watch and stuff.
With my watch that was not very expensive.
Maybe in $2007, but today with inflation and all that, that's a lot of money.
Okay. I'll give you that one. The economy's terrible.
Yeah, Dustin, you saw an advanced screening of this.
I did. So tonight's actually we're recording this on its release night. So
yeah,
fans
it
around
is
the world.
Thursday evening. It's about it's people are in theaters right now watching the movie. Probably around the country for the first time.
Yep.
So yeah.
So the quick story about how I got to see the early screening. Last April, Warner Brothers did an event where they screened the trailer for the film in IMAX. It was like this little teaser using all IMAX footage that was shot for the film, and so they played the trailer on an IMAX screen. There's one not too far, so my girlfriend and I made the trip and saw the trailer there. And really the real reason was because they were giving away posters, and I just wanted a poster. They're like the limited edition posters, and I wanted one. So it was a little added bonus that at the end they said, if you leave us your email address, we will contact you next year about an early screening. So a couple weeks ago I got an email and it said, you've got 2 passes for an early screening of Batman vs. Superman. So I went Monday the 21st to see the movie with what I hoped was a packed crowd, but it really wasn't. But that doesn't really surprise me, though, now that I stop and think about it, because A, it's a huge theater. B, they sort of asked you to plan this a year ahead of time, and it was on a Monday night. So who really can do that? So anyway, it wasn't a packed house, but it was still a pretty good crowd. There were there was a couple people that were dressed up, and some people, one guy literally beside us I thought was going to cry when the opening title started. I'm not joking. He literally leaned forward in his seat, and his girlfriend was beside him with her hand just sort of resting on her cheek. And he was leaned forward like a child, and then the WB logo came up, and there's a bat flying or something, and he's like, and covers his eyes, and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me,
dude. Nice.
Yeah, I love Batman. I love Batman. I'll admit, probably more than anybody I know. I'll confess to that. But
you don't know this guy.
Yeah, but I've never met someone who would just cry at an opening Warner Brothers title. So,
God.
Oh my God, a bat! I would hate for him to be outside, in springtime, because there's bats everywhere.
Was he in tears by the end of the movie?
I didn't look over at him by the end of the movie. No, I forgot about him. Dang it. Well, oh well.
Missed opportunity.
He's probably melted into the floor.
Where are they now?
But yeah,
Okay.
They had a whole row of Warner Brothers seats, Warner Brothers, some dignitaries from Warner Brothers were going to show up. Nobody showed up. I was like, come on, Warner Brothers, you don't even care enough to be here.
Let's all get high instead.
Although they probably had a lot of screenings to deal with over, that day. But yeah, so yeah, that's how I saw the movie early.
So walk us through the. We all know the basic plot of the film.
Yeah.
It is Batman who seeks out Superman, basically, right, to stop him?
Yeah. So the basic plot is, I guess technically it starts with the Man of Steel, and in Man of Steel, the fight that's happening directly affects Bruce Wayne in that one of his buildings ends up destroyed in the battle, the climactic battle for Man of Steel between Superman and Zod, and this of course makes Bruce very wary of trusting an alien with that much power. So he sort of begins this process of trying to figure out how to defeat, should he need to, this alien menace, who he's already deemed as a villain. It's a little more complicated for Superman, who in the wake of the attack on Metropolis is being met with a lot of two things. One, a lot of love. There's a lot of people who love him because they see him as defending the city, and a lot of probably more people who really, really can't stand the guy because he's an alien who destroyed the city. So Superman sort of feels the weight of, or rather Clark feels the weight of Superman. And the film, so aside from the little cold open, which starts with the murder of the Waynes, and then jumps ahead to the destruction for Man of Steel. Then there's an 18 months later title. So the majority of the film takes place 18 months after Man of Steel. In that time, Clark and Lois have become an item. They're living together in Metropolis. Perry, sees Clark as like a full-fledged member of the Daily Planet team. Just a few things here and there have changed. But by and large, sort of the status quo that was set by the end of Man of Steel is still the status quo here. And now there's an added little thing of Lex Luthor, whose presence was felt in Man of Steel, but he was not in it. And Luthor has grown. He sort of mirrors Batman's hatred of Superman in that. Here's an alien with too much power, and if left unchecked, what is that gonna do in the long term? Mm-hmm. So Luthor has a plan in motion to bring about the destruction or the end of Superman, as one would expect he would. So yeah, that's sort of the plot in that. In broad strokes, there are other things happening here, which I think are probably a little too spoilery for me to get into, but that's the broad strokes.
I was squirting more water into the mug. Something you couldn't hear it.
I thought you were peeing.
I'll pee in this booth real quick. I've been in here a while.
I have to pee.
It was Hold just like this.
That's exactly what it sounded like on my end. I hope when you pee, it doesn't make that suction noise at the end.
If my penis made that noise, I would be super afraid. I'm going to the doctor right now, like something's. I think it's eating. I don't know.
There's a suction in there. I don't know why.
I'm not sure. All I wanted to do was pee, and then I don't know where. I don't know where my chips went. All right, sorry. I completely derailed my own train of thought. I couldn't remember what I was going to say next. Well, I haven't seen the film, and I had stated, after we saw maybe the first full trailer, that I decided I probably won't see this in theaters. And it was just, it's just out of lack of interest. I plan to see the film still, no matter how bad the reviews are. Because I am curious of how it was executed, and to draw my own conclusions about how it was executed. My hang up is the way it looks. I mean, I thought that the casting wasn't great with Jesse Eisenberg. Gal Gadot, I didn't think was a bad choice to play Wonder Woman, but she's a very thin woman. I
think she sells it.
Okay, well that's encouraging because I like Gal Gadot, and she's the perfect level of celebrity, I guess, to where this is a blank enough slate from Wonder Woman, but enough to where audiences might know who she is.
Sure.
So yeah. And I had no problem with the casting of Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne. He was kind of a little bit of a big name, I think, for a movie like this.
Sure.
And I don't know. Anyway, I guess I don't know what the vibe. I just felt like they were probably not doing certain characters justice. I'm particularly interested in your thoughts on Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
This is the strange thing. When the movie was over, my girlfriend leaned over to me and said, they probably couldn't have picked a better Lex Luthor. Is what she said to me. See where she's coming from. This is for the version of Lex that is written here. She's right. They couldn't have picked a better one. The question is this the adaptation of Lex Luthor that you want to see? For me, it wasn't really the one I want to see, but here's the weird thing. I don't think it's an invalid interpretation of Lex Luthor. It's a different one, for sure. but no different than Gene Hackman was. Gene Hackman was not what the comics were. Kevin Spacey is not what the comics were. The only one that seems close to the comics is maybe Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville. Mm-hmm. Everyone else is different anyway. The Lex Luthor from, Superman the movie is more interested in acquiring real estate than destroying Superman. Same with, Superman Returns, although maybe there's a little added bit of Superman hatred in there. But that Lex swindled his money from dying old ladies that he, wooed before their death. So there's never been a consistent version of Lex Luthor. And if we're being honest, I think this is probably a better interpretation of Luthor than Kevin Spacey's was. That's not to say that Eisenberg is a better actor than Kevin Spacey by any means, but it is to say that this version is a little closer to what I'd want from the psychology of Lex Luthor than Kevin Spacey was. Even if Kevin Spacey looked the part more. So for me, this sort of sums up a lot about the movie. Is it's a little bit of good and a lot of bad, or at least probably best case scenario, half and half. So in the case of Jesse Eisenberg as Lex, I don't have a problem with it as much as I thought I would, and really by after a few scenes of him, even though he's over the top and very eccentric, I kind of don't have as much of a problem with him as I thought I would. And maybe that's because there were other problems in the film that I felt were higher priority. But regardless, I didn't have as much of a problem with it as I thought I would.
Huh. Wow. How was Ben Affleck?
Ben Affleck makes a really great Batman. The jury is still out on his Bruce. And I think the reason for that is we don't get to see much of the billionaire playboy Bruce Wayne in the film. We don't get to see much of Bruce Wayne as a socialite or as a, whatever. And even when we see him in the Batcave, he's still kind of Batman. He never opens up like Christian Bale does to that Alfred, where almost in Nolan's trilogy, there's like three characters. There's, sort of who Bruce is with Alfred, then there's who Bruce is as Batman, and then there's who Bruce is in front of the general public. Right. I don't know, if I prefer that version over this or not, but regardless, I think that the jury's still out on his Bruce. I haven't seen him pull off that. There's that classic scene in The Dark Knight when they're throwing the party for Harvey Dent, and Bruce comes in with two girls on each arm, and he's like, already got champagne in his hand, and he's like, sort of like, here I am, we can start the party, and that we don't get to see in this film. So the jury's still out on his Bruce Wayne, but he looks great in the suit, and the voice, that voice in the trailer, do you bleed?
Yeah,
you will.
The modulated.
That's built into his suit. Mm-hmm. So that's not I figured that would be something built into the armor that he was wearing at that time in the trailer, but that's actually built into his everyday bat suit as well. Yeah. So you don't have the idea of like, well, what's his voice sound like? Well, it's modulated and it's pretty much anybody would sound the exact same way. Mm-hmm.
Tell me, do you bleed? It's time you learned what it means to be a man. I thought yours with you.
Yeah, I never had a problem with the idea of modulating Batman's voice.
No, me neither. It makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. Although, of course, I prefer, Kevin Conroy just because he had two different voices.
Yeah, he did.
For Batman and Bruce, and they seem very, but one of, that you'd have Bruce Wayne who talked like this, and he was very, very proper, and can I get your coat for you? And then there was like the "Get out of my way, Quinn!" Like the deeper, more guttural.
Yeah,
like,
very very straight, short, quick.
stern.
Yeah.
What if Luthor does become president, like he did in their world? What would stop you from doing what that Superman did?
There's always that kryptonite you carry around.
You don't get to joke. Not today. I just took a bullet for you.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And I like how natural his Batman sounds. In that, obviously Christian Bale's putting on a voice.
Where is he? I don't know where he is. He found us. He must have friends.
And I like that Conroy doesn't have to do that. It's just, more. I would say like it's just sort of his speaking voice if he were a little more abrupt.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah.
I
like
like
he was
that.
mean all the time.
Right. If Kevin Conroy was a jerk to everybody, that's his Batman.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then again, while we're talking about the cast, we'll talk about, Jeremy Irons as Alfred, is one of the few things. Mm-hmm.
I heard that he was like the best thing about the movie.
He's one of the best things. He's probably the closest thing to his comic book counterpart, which I'll get into that in a little bit.
Interesting. What about Michael Caine?
Yeah, I love Michael Caine. Michael Caine to me is still the benchmark, but Jeremy Irons is this sort of military kind of Alfred who has knowledge in what we see is at least some sort of strategy, combat, and technology.
Yeah.
So I like a well-rounded Alfred. I do prefer maybe an Alfred who's maybe a little better with like medicine than say technology.
Yeah.
That way Bruce has, a guy to mend his broken bones on hand. But yeah, I mean,
I do like an Alfred who gets his hands dirty a little more.
No, I absolutely agree. And Alfred, like as perfect as I think the animated series is, the Alfred doesn't really do much. He's really just sort of there to lighten the mood. Yeah. And really, this movie doesn't have very many jokes, but Alfred gets a couple. So that's a good thing. And when I saw that, early in the film, there's like a part where he says something like Bruce is going to a party at Lex Luthor's mansion. And he's like, he said something about, Master Bruce, you probably should find a girl while you're there. And then I can't remember what brought it up. I can't remember.
And
anyway.
have sex with her.
Yeah, well, basically he was just saying he basically was like, find a girl who will make you respectable while you're there. And then he's like, I don't have time for that, Alfred. And then he goes, I don't have, he like repeats it like, I don't have time for that, Alfred, or whatever. And it's just one of those moments where it's such an easy joke, but it's very Alfred. And to sort of make fun of Bruce's antisocial. Yeah. So.
Yeah. He's mocking his inability to relate to other people.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like and his how not normal Bruce is about everything.
Uh-huh.
So then let's jump over to. Let's just go ahead and say Henry Cavill and Amy Adams are back, and they're both
Yeah.
If you were sold on them the first time, you'll still be sold on them now.
Right.
I think Lois probably proves herself maybe a little bit more in this, in that she kind of has a mystery to chase in this, which is cool. And then Diane Lane returns for like one scene, and then
Gal Gadot.
Oh, okay, yeah. So Gal Gadot has a few scenes throughout the film. They never seem too out of place, but they also don't really seem like they fit in. It's a weird like middle ground. But she has this commanding presence when she walks in, which I didn't expect. So in other words, she gets into a scene with, say, Ben Affleck, And the thought is that Affleck's going to kind of dominate, but he doesn't. She does. And that's an interesting thing for Wonder Woman to be able to do. And, whether that was a part on the editing or what have you, just favoring, shots of her rather than Ben, I'm not sure. But I do know that Gal Gadot came across as maybe more commanding, as far has more gravity in her presence than Ben Affleck does as Bruce. Mm-hmm. And when she speaks, you hang on every word. So really she kind of was a standout of the whole cast, really. Even though I will say, don't expect too much. She's not in a lot of the movie.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
I always figured that, because people, we'll get into this a little bit more in a little bit, but people like to compare Marvel and DC films. Mm-hmm. But I always thought one of the ways that DC at least had I figured the best chance DC had to sort of be better than Marvel if we're splitting into categories is with their female characters, because Marvel's sort of, I wouldn't say notorious, but they come under fire often for just underwriting their female characters at this point.
Yeah.
And so I figured with Wonder Woman, there was a really good opportunity for DC to basically show, well, we know how to write women,
Right.
And
it's true.
Yeah.
They released today a photo of the Wonder Woman film.
I saw that.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it has Gal Gadot and
Robin Wright.
Yeah, Robin Wright, and then her mother, played by somebody.
I lost the list. Yeah.
Yeah, and then another actress who plays like her aunt. And so essentially, this is Wonder Woman and her mother and her aunts that sort of all like in tandem raise her to be, the warrior that she is.
Yeah.
It's Connie Nielsen, by the way. What? David Thewlis is in Wonder Woman?
Oh.
That's legit.
Does
Anyway.
he play a centaur?
It doesn't say, but that would be awesome. Yeah, so while we're on the subject of Wonder Woman, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the connective tissue to Justice League and to the larger DCEU.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman's... how do I want to phrase this? So it's well established now that the Wonder Woman film takes place around World War I. Did you? Oh, sorry.
No, well, that's
Yeah, so it takes place around World War I, at least primarily. So in the film, there is a lot of alluding to her past, which we will get to in her solo film. And there is some connective tissue in that she's searching for something. We eventually see what it is that she's searching for, and I'm sure that will come into play in her solo film. And then there's this. So early in the film, I think it's probably his first scene. Luthor mentions something that he's come up with called the metahuman thesis. And the metahuman thesis is simply that the world is changing and that people are changing, and that there are people around with powers that are extraordinary. And so the connective tissue comes from the metahuman thesis, and they find. I got to be very careful how I do this without spoiling, but they find evidence of other members of the League in this film. It's not huge, it's not hugely important, but they find evidence of metahumans in the film, and those metahumans will play roles in Justice League. So that's sort of how they do that. Now, admittedly, it feels a little shoehorned in. It feels like they just needed to do something. But here's what gets me. They didn't have to do it. About halfway through this movie, there is something that happens, which I will not say what it is, but there is something that happens that is incredibly intriguing that basically says, hey, you didn't know this, but you've kind of already seen bits of Justice League. And it's super intriguing. And what happens is enough that they didn't need the metahuman theory in this film. What happens is enough of a connective tissue. And so it just seemed like they doubled down on something that they didn't need to double down on. Because what they had fit way better. And was way more interesting to watch. So, yeah, there's that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, did the movie... I know the movie's like 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
Does it feel long?
It feels long. Part of the reason it feels long is because of its structure. It's got a fractured narrative. At the beginning, it follows, like I said, Clark, Bruce, Lex, and Lois in like these separate stories that kind of ebb and flow into one another. That's all really cool. At a certain point, the film loses its steam and becomes like a race to a climax that happens and then is over, and then here's another climax. And it's really strange. And so what happens is, what that does is it makes you feel like the movie's longer than it is, because you feel like you've already seen the climax of the movie. You've already seen what you came for, and now here's another thing. So yes, it does feel long, which frightens me because the director's cut is supposed to add an extra half hour to the film.
Woo!
So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if for I guess for Letterboxd purposes, what would you give this film, like out of star rating? Because it seems to me that you liked this movie better than I thought you would, and more than you thought you would.
Yes and no. I am disappointed by the film.
Okay.
I like it less than I thought I would. But there's plenty to like, and I could talk about for days the things that I do like.
Right.
But I could talk about for weeks the things that I don't like.
Right.
And that's the problem. And we haven't even gotten to that yet, Hoop. We've talked a lot about what's good, and I can hit some bullet points about what's bad, and there's one place I want to park for a minute.
Okay.
So the bad. The score is completely lazy and forgettable. There are bits where the Man of Steel score comes back into play, and I love the Man of Steel score. And every time that pops back in, like the leitmotif of like Krypton or whatever, it's like, man, that was cool. And then it reminds me, like, wait, have I been even paying attention to the score? And you're like, has there been a score? I don't remember. and then you go look it up on Spotify, and you're like, oh yeah, there is a score, but wow, this is boring. So there's that. The direction. I mean, look, Zack Snyder has style, but he's not the best director in the world.
No.
I've written a full review, which I'm debating on posting on my blog or on Letterboxd or something. But the point is, what I wish Zack Snyder would do is stop editing. Like set a camera down and let it film some stuff and let your actors do their job.
Yeah.
That way we as the audience, we can jump into that scene with them. But when you cut every 5 seconds, there's no point for us to settle into the scene.
Yeah.
It's like it's this I don't know, just hyper style of editing that just completely, I think, is unnecessary throughout most of the film. The tone is just too dark. It's just too too depressing. And the issue is you're dealing with Superman here. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're dealing with Batman, and you got to be dark for Batman, but you can't be dark for Superman. So you got to strike a balance or find a way to switch tones and use that cinematically. Because, you know, granted, the Marvel movies, I think maybe they're one of their strengths and also maybe one of their weaknesses at the same time is that their tones are all pretty similar. They're all able to strike this middle of the road tone that then can be transferred. And so if you mix any number of them, like Hulk and Thor, or Iron Man and Captain America, or Captain America and Black Widow, everything kind of falls into place because the tone isn't too crazy. But it would be different if you were mixing Daredevil and Spider-Man, right? That would be so hard because they're so different. Or Punisher and Spider-Man. So yeah, I mean, the tone just doesn't work for both characters. But all of that is like an aside. Like if the tone was off and the direction wasn't great and the score wasn't too good, I could forgive it as long as when I leave, I feel the promise that they made me was fulfilled. But the promise that Zack Snyder made to me was not fulfilled. And the promise that I'm talking about isn't, oh, hey, I want those two characters to fight. The promise is, I want to see a Batman movie. I want to see a Superman movie. And I didn't see either of those things. These characters are so different from the source material. These characters are so tonally and just in every way out of character, that I don't feel like I watched a movie with Superman in it or with Batman in it.
That's not good.
It's not. And look, I could sit here and list reasons why it doesn't work. I'm not going to do that, but I will say this. And these two words should give people an idea how different this is. In this version, Batman kills. So this is the Punisher in a bat suit, maybe.
Yeah.
That's not Batman to me.
No.
This Batman kills. I read something online that the kill count in this movie is 48. I don't know if that's true. But that I'm not the only one who noticed, like, okay, that would kill somebody. Because the movie even literally shows him killing people. So
that always see, like, again, like that's the not taking life is central to Batman's character, and also that can only assist his motivation in the film, because if his whole thing is being pissed off at Superman for the collateral damage, while, you know, being able to point himself, you know, Superman be like, oh yeah, you're a saint, like, yeah, I don't kill people, I don't kill bad people, I don't kill good people, I don't kill anybody.
Exactly.
Instead, he's like, you're right, I'm just as bad, and just, like, you know, pulls out a guy's heart.
Exactly. but even that, I mean, look, if we just talk about the fight between these two characters, which I hate the idea of them fighting, but I understand it in context of the story. Yeah. I get it. You're mad at him, you don't trust him, you don't know him, I get it. But the issue is, the movie does not shy away from the fact that Batman is ready to murder Superman. Not like, you know, put him in jail, but, or whatever you do to a Superman, but literally murder him.
You put him in Supermax prison.
Supermax prison. In like a room with kryptonite bars. There you go. You're just dying forever. It would. But yeah, he's literally willing to deliver a killing stroke to Superman. So that completely, you know, I can buy a story where Batman is mad enough at Superman to fight him, but I can't buy a story where Batman's mad enough at Superman to murder him, in cold blood. Yeah. So that's strange to me. And then Superman is just as bad, right? Superman's a character all about like light and bringing hope to people and fighting for justice and all of this stuff. But this Superman, all right, let me put it to you this way. Let me ask you a question. Imagine for a second, Hooper, that you are Superman. Oh. Okay? All right, you are Superman. Mm-hmm. You have encountered a man who threatens to kill the world that you live on. So you fight him. You're not good at fighting. You've never done it before. But you fight him, and you make a heck of a mess doing it. Eventually, you save the day by killing this man, and the world hates you because you caused so much damage. The world doesn't know if it can trust you. And now you decide, you know what? I could do some really good things if I were Superman, if I were a symbol. I could do some good things. Now, let me ask you this. If your mission is to make the citizens of Metropolis and of the world trust you, when you go into a situation next time, what do?
I'd be careful.
You be careful. What else do? Maybe not kill so many people?
Yes. Yeah.
This is a Superman that has that desire, but does not ever work to carrying it out.
So he does not change his style pretty much at all.
He's literally like, I don't know why they don't trust me. And then
throws a car through a building.
And then Lois Lane gets in trouble, and this is like the first scene where you see Superman. Lois Lane gets in trouble, and Superman takes a guy, flies him, a normal man, a thug, basically, flies him through a wall, murders him, presumably, to save Lois Lane. Okay, fine. Mm-hmm. And causes a whole international incident in doing so. You're not doing a good job here, Superman. You're making things worse for yourself. It's like, stop digging the hole.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good to me, Superman.
Gotta be honest, Superman. It doesn't look good.
Doesn't look good.
Looks pretty fucking bad. If I'm being totally honest. I'm sorry for swearing.
This Superman, like, is the opposite of smart. There's a scene in here where, I'm not going to give it away, but let's just say Superman does a thing that he really shouldn't have done because you should have seen through the whole thing.
Okay.
Nope. Nope. And a lot of bad things happen because he just wasn't paying attention.
He just
I'm not even kidding. And then he does this. He goes, I still don't know why they're not accepting me as a good guy. And then he flies to Lois and he's like, Lois, I don't know what to do. And she's like, well, maybe you should just, I don't know, just stop being Superman or stop being, my boyfriend or whatever. And he's like, I don't know. So he flies home to Smallville and says, Mom, what do I do? And she says, you don't owe this world anything, Clark. Why don't you just stop? And he's like, I don't know. And it's like, look, first of all, I disagree with both of those interpretations of Lois Lane and Martha Kent.
Yeah.
They would both be there to support Superman when he needs some mental supporting.
Yeah, exactly.
Some spirit lifting.
They would tell him that what he does is important and that he has an obligation.
Right.
To, yeah.
But this is the problem with the movie. The movie never, ever, ever lets these characters be heroes. Mm. They are both villains all the time. They are both selfish. They are both childish. They are both whiny. They're both like all about me, not about the greater good. They are never once in this film painted as a hero. Not even by his mother. His mother doesn't even say, Clark, what you do is important. You really are a symbol. And then you'd be like, well, the rest of the movie doesn't really match up, but at least they tried and they kind of knew what they were going for. No. everything about the movie. So what that tells me is that Chris Terrio and all the dudes that wrote this movie and Zack Snyder are sitting back behind closed doors going, man, how did they let us write these heroes? We hate these guys. They're not heroes. Let's make a movie where they're not heroes, and we'll convince everybody that they're not heroes, which is pretty much essentially like whenever somebody tries to jam like a political opinion down your throat.
Yeah, of all the political platitudes like to shove into like movies, the ones I hate the most is like this whole like let's never stop apologizing for America and all the terrible things they've done. It's like the same with these superheroes. It's like, yeah, but look at the net positive, for God's sake. I'm saving a whole bunch of people. And if I could just sort of stop throwing men through walls.
Right. No, the thesis of the film should be, can a man be a hero in a world where the people don't want a hero, don't want him to be a hero?
Yeah.
That should be the thesis. And then that should be the burning question. And then at the end, the answer is yes. A hero can be a hero even when people don't see him as a hero. And then the arc is complete because at the end, they finally see him as a hero because he didn't stop when they didn't.
Yeah.
That's an uplifting story that sounds like a Superman story, but here's the kicker. It also kind of sounds like a Batman story. I don't understand. I just don't. So that's where I'm going to hang my hat, is you've got a whole bunch of things that are good, but the problem with all of it, the problem that seeps through every scene, is that I never feel, even when there's a scene with Lois and Clark, that is Clark Kent. I never feel that. And when there's a scene with Bruce Wayne and Alfred, I never feel like that's Bruce Wayne. I feel like that's Alfred. I feel like that's Lois. But I don't feel like our heroes, Batman v Superman, are either of those things.
Ugh.
That's the issue.
That is disappointing.
And I'll just go ahead and throw this in there for free. Batman vs. Superman is the worst title for this film ever, because the Batman vs. Superman fight, it's like 10 minutes long. Mm-hmm. Also, Dawn of Justice, like I said, it's like handled in like 2 scenes. So that's also misleading. The movie should just be called Dark People Do Dark Stuff Darkly.
Everyone's bad.
The movie. Everyone's bad. The movie. America is violent. The movie. We're sorry.
Well, do you have any, are those your closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts are, basically that I don't hope that the film flops, but I hope that it does. I hope that it does spur some change in the direction that the films are going, because there's still enough time to save it, and I'm not ready to wait 12 years or 15 years for a good version of these characters. And to make matters worse, I sat down today and I watched an episode of The Flash, and I know I harp about this show all the dang time on this podcast, but I watched an episode of The Flash, and this episode it started with Barry Allen and his friends going out, like they just, successfully did a thing, and they were going to go out to the clubs because it's a Saturday night and let's go have fun. And they had fun. And then, the villain shows up, but they had fun. Like, they had fun together. And then at the end, Barry gets tested morally, and he has a character who looks him in the eye and says, Barry, every time you compromise your values, you lose a piece of your soul. And Barry decides, I better not do this thing that's going to eat away at my soul. He decides that. That's an optimistic message. He became, even though he already was, he became more of a hero in this episode that I watched than he was going into it. And the weirdest thing in the world is to say that a CW show is doing better than a large billion-dollar film.
Yeah.
But it is. It's allowing Barry Allen, it's allowing the Flash to be a hero, to stand up for what he believes in, uncompromised, and be a strong example for children, be a strong example for teens, be a strong example for young adults who say, I can be who I am and not compromise my internal moral compass. That's what heroes are there for. Heroes are to show you metaphorically how to deal with the problems in your life. And that's what they always have been. That's what they always should be. And at the very least, they should be entertaining. Batman vs. Superman fails on both fronts. And so coming from a guy who would sit down tomorrow and watch Batman Forever if you asked him to, or a guy who would sit down and watch 8 episodes in a row of Batman Brave and the Bold, as campy as it is, if you asked him to be able to say, this is one of the worst adaptations of Batman.
Oh.
It's heartbreaking because it looks like the version I want.
Right.
It looks better, but it's not. And that's the heartbreak of it is that Val Kilmer's Batman is closer to Batman than Ben Affleck's Batman. But again, I will say, just to close it out, it's not the actor's fault. They did their best. They didn't have much to work with. It all boils down to writing. It all boils down to characterization. And if that's not on the written page, the actor can't do a thing.
Well, all right then.
But I do recommend that you see it in theaters at a matinee, just because it is a big DC film and it is a big movie that's big. And I'll say this: go see it in theaters, because if it gets spoiled for you, I do think you'll enjoy it less.
Okay.
So,
well, that's going to do it tonight. I think we'll cap it off there.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for listening and for maybe in the future watching. Yeah, look for us on YouTube probably for the next episode. I'm probably gonna not even put 120 on Podbean, even if it's before the cutoff, because it won't be there for but a couple days. So
yeah.
All right, well maybe we'll do a video one for you next. Who knows?
Sounds good.
Dustin and I both have a lot of movies cataloged, and I got some TV shows I'm caught up on. Maybe we'll talk about that next time.
Sounds good to me. Have you started watching Better Call Saul season 2?
I've only watched the first 2 episodes. That's one of the ones I need to catch up on.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna watch episode 3 tomorrow before the app kicks the episode off.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but I finished Agent Carter. I finished Muppets, and then I finished something else, a third movie or show that was Sunny, Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, right now I'm watching. I'm trying to catch up on The Americans because the 4th season just started, so I'm trying to catch up on that show. Trying to catch up on Archer because that's about to come back. Trying to catch up on Better Call Saul, and I'm watching the first 2 seasons of Fargo also, and I still haven't even gotten started on the Punisher, Daredevil yet. So I got a lot of stuff coming my way. This weekend I'm going to watch The Hunger Games, Mockingjay Part 2, and
nice.
In a couple of days I'll be watching Creed also.
Oh yeah.
So
love me some Creed.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a good weekend, everybody. Go see some movies, and see you later.
Bye.